gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we have got an awesome episode for you guys today. We are going to talk about some key players this year that we think you need to know some information on, and we're going to tell you why here in just a little bit, so stick around. First things first, Wes, how's it going? We are in the full swing of summer and off season. Camp's about to start.
Oh,
it's wild. How's it going?
Well, I wish there was a little more in the off season that we could talk about. That would be like kind of get some kind of action happening here in the off season. But summer's great. Summer's good. Honestly, really random, but like the highlight since we last recorded an episode on a Saturday. My girlfriend and I made a charcuterie board, and it was one of the best charcuterie boards I've ever had in my entire life, and it was so stinking good. We went to go watch Secret Invasion, right? The new Marvel show, and we could not even start the show because we were so distracted by how heavenly the cheese was. And we'd be looking at each other like, what a time to be alive. This is one of the highlights of the entire year so far. Just cheese. I basically walked into this episode to talk about some cheese I ate on Saturday. Yeah. How are you doing, Noah?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I no charcuterie boards for me, but broken record here. I just keep falling in love with the sport of golf, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about it. Huh? I went by myself on Sunday morning just because it was like it was Saturday night, and my wife is quite the reader, and so she usually on a Sunday morning early she'll go and enjoy a cup of coffee at her favorite coffee shop and sit and read a book for an hour or two. So I was going, I want to go do something, and I got this new hobby that I like, and so I started looking around, and I it's Arizona, so I was looking for a morning tee time. I was hoping that I could beat a little bit of the heat, and so I just decided, whatever, I'm just gonna beat the heat entirely, and so I booked a 5:45 a.m. tee time, and just went and showed up and just started golfing on my own. Oh. And it was great. Got the sunrise, got the nice cool morning air of Arizona coming in, and just threw an AirPod in and listened to some music and a podcast I've been waiting to listen to. And golf is awesome, dude. It's so cool. I love it. It's a great time.
I'm so happy for you. You found like a new hobby. You enjoy it. I mean, you have to like it enough to wake up that early to be there that early for tea time, and
a bit early. Yeah, a little bit early, but
it's incredible.
It was a lot of fun, and so enjoyed that. Highlight of the weekend, got to go golf. More good than bad on the course, so it was fun. But I'm besides that, it's apparently supposed to be record heat waves this week in Arizona, so probably not much golf. More staying inside than anything.
Fantastic.
Yeah, summer's fun in the desert.
Yes, it is.
Enjoyable. Anyways, listen, we've got a great episode for you guys today. As you guys know, as you have clicked on the video, started to watch, we are going over our best values and biggest bust for the 2023 season. It's a fun episode. Get to call your shot a little bit in this episode, and it's fun. It's fun time. And if things pan out, it's fun to look back on. Had a lot of fun last year talking about it. So we are going to jump into it. But first, talk about the hottest headline of the week. Wes, jump into the news. What's going on?
Drum roll, please. Absolutely nothing.
All right. That's still nothing going on, you guys. I promise we will update you. Listen, I heard a theory this week. And it's like, why isn't DeAndre Hopkins or Dalvin Cook signing anywhere? And they're like, oh, maybe it's the money. Somebody was just like, I just don't want to go to training camp. And I was like, oh, that's I guess that's fair.
Honestly, it's not mandatory if you're not on a team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Could be. Who knows? Anyhow, listen, we will update you as soon as we have information, you guys. We promise it will be known in the Fourth and Troll Fantasy atmosphere whenever we have some information for you. Nothing right now, though. So we're just going to jump into it. Biggest values, best values, and biggest busts here. Let's do it. Wes, give us your best value for the fantasy season of 2023 as we are jumping into it. And who are you just excited about?
Yeah, I like how you prefaced all this by calling our shot because I want to have a dialogue with you about this player. His name is Joshua Kelly of the Los Angeles Chargers. And I'm going to, be transparent. Some of you listening don't even know who that is. He's the RB2 behind Austin Eckler for the Chargers. He is currently going running back 63 off the board, and he is 301st overall. So just math, there's already value in just that low risk, high reward potential of anyone that late in the draft. But I want to focus on just the reward and what's possible with someone like Joshua Kelly. So there are a few names that I've continued to just keep drumming this offseason. And as you know, that is the Chargers offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. Now, allow me to just finally give some stats and examples of why Kellen Moore is so exciting to me with what he's going to do with this Chargers offense. As I mentioned, Joshua Kelly is the backup running back in LA. Let's start with how Kellen Moore used the backup running back in Dallas for the Cowboys. His name is Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard played all 4 seasons that Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator, and Pollard saw an increase every single year. And most notably, he even saw an increase in the passing game. Now, we know Kellen Moore's offense has been stated as a pass-first offense, and we know that Mike McCarthy in the Cowboys has says that finally I can run the ball now that Moore's out of here. Okay. Well, let's just look at what the Cowboys have done the last 4 years. Last year was 10th in most yards out of every offense. 2021, first overall. 14th in 2020, and that's when Dak was hurt. And then in 2019, first overall. So 2 of the 4 seasons Kellen Moore ran an offense, they had the most yards in the NFL. That's very exciting. Okay, so I'm not going to say Joshua Kelly is as good as Tony Pollard, but Kellen Moore might, because he's already pointed out how impressed he was with Josh Kelly over the 2022 season. Who in the right mind is pointing out the backup running back when they're joining a team? Maybe it's the coaching staff that knows they're going to have to move on from their starting running back. So Austin Eckler practically backed down from his stance on seeking a trade because the Chargers wouldn't give him the pay that he wanted. So now he's just going to play for one more season. That means the Chargers have got to start finding a replacement. They're going to start with who they've got right now, and that's Joshua Kelly. And he's positioned himself perfectly for an opportunity to prove himself to Brandon Staley and to Kellen Moore that he can be their guy. Here's my final little pitch here. Josh Kelly has never seen more than 25 targets in a single season. But Tony Pollard has had at least 40 targets in each of the last 3 seasons. Josh Kelly's only had more than 70 carries once. But Pollard has only had less than 100 carries once ever in his season. Nobody is talking about Joshua Kelly because nobody knows what his potential is. But if he's ever going to be in a position where he's more than a handcuff, this is a great season to take him and a real opportunity to have someone that could be the starting running back if the Chargers decide, you know what, we have an opportunity to find value in Mr. Eckler. We'll move on and we'll start Joshua Kelly and see if he can't be our guy for the future. And that's the starting running back for Justin Herbert's team if that happens. So, final point, again, He's 301st overall. You've got nothing to lose, but that's my pitch for Joshua Kelly as being possibly one of the best values of this season.
Yeah, I love that you're saying he's 301st overall, which would be the 31st round of fantasy. Guys, he's going undrafted. Like he's on the he's on your waiver wire is what's happening. So he is your final round pick if you are wanting to take the shot there. I'm with you that Kellen Moore is going to use both of these guys. I actually think it's going to be flipped. If we think about the play style of Tony Pollard, I feel like that more fits what we see Austin Ekeler as. And we can talk about Ezekiel Elliott, because Ezekiel Elliott still, past his prime, guys. Nowhere near it anymore.
Fair.
Ezekiel Elliott still had double-digit rushing touchdowns last year. That is absurd to think about. Ezekiel Elliott, you think about what he was last year, say he was washed last year, whatever. RB22. RB22, guys. Like a borderline top 20 running back, an RB2 for your fantasy team. And he's going potentially, if he is used the same way as Ezekiel Elliott was last year, Joshua Kelly could be an RB2 for your team that is going undrafted. Like I'm with you. I think Kellen Moore is going to be creative and use both these guys. Joshua Kelly is so undervalued, and so listen. If the ceiling is, we do talk about Tony Pollard. I don't remember what he was. If the ceiling is Tony Pollard and the floor could be Ezekiel Elliott, you're looking at a top 25 running back, and a guy who's going undrafted. Yeah, that's value. That is value in the definition. The amount that you can get out of Joshua Kelly, if he pans out the same way either Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard has over the last year or so, yeah, value right freaking there. And it's a fantastic pick. And listen, like we said, he's going undrafted or in the last round of your draft. Pick him up or draft him. If over the first 2 weeks, when waiver wires are hot, he hasn't really done anything, maybe not. Maybe it's not the year. Go ahead, drop him. You have no risk whatsoever in taking him, because it's the graph of low risk, high reward is unbelievable. So I'm with you, Wes. We both love Joshua Kelly. We think he's I'll be honest. I think fantasy football has boosted the idea of how we view Austin Ekeler as a running back in the NFL. He doesn't run the ball very well, you guys. He gets a lot of work and touches, but he does not run the ball very well. That's fine. Like he is used, and he is a fantasy beast. He is incredible. Like Austin Ekeler is awesome. Joshua Kelly, in the limited touches that he got last year, I was watching him run versus Austin Ekeler, and I was like, this dude runs so much better than him. It is absurd how much better Joshua Kelly runs than Austin Ekeler. I'm with you, Wes. I love it. And so that's big value here for the 2023 season.
You fully supporting me. I was ready for just some kind of conversation about like how well like do we think, like where is his ceiling? But then you phrased it really well. Like it's going to be between Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, and that's going to be somewhere around 20. And to get an undrafted player that finishes around 20th in the running backs and maybe top 20, yeah. I mean, then just the graph, as Noah mentioned, yeah, there's your value right there. So that's my best value of this 2023 season. Noah, tell us who is the best value that you've got for us.
Well, listen, if you were with us last year, let's all hold hands and enjoy this moment, because it's a beautiful full circle moment. Because last season, this guy was my biggest bust of the 2022 season, and I was correct. But my best value for the 2023 season is wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Deontay Johnson. Listen, this is a moment I never thought would come, and I'm so happy that it has, because I was devastated last year to share that Deontay Johnson is going to be the biggest bust of the season. And I was correct. I was right. He was being drafted in the early teens as far as wide receivers go. And he finishes as wide receiver 30. He did not return on the ADP that you were spending on him. Yeah, so I was correct, but not for the reason that I thought. So if we remember, my reasoning, and I shouted this from the mountaintops, was that his fantasy value over the past seasons that we saw was because Ben Roethlisberger hyper-targeted him as a wide receiver. He is a fantastic wide receiver. He gets open a lot, but Ben Roethlisberger targeted him so much. And I did not think Kenny Pickett would do that. He proved me wrong. Deontay Johnson finished 6th in targets last year. The dude was up there with the best of the best as far as wide receivers goes with targets. But his downfall, he scored 0 touchdowns last season. Deontay Johnson did not have a single touchdown in the NFL last year. And that comes off of years where he was getting 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 touchdowns with Ben Roethlisberger. He scored 0 touchdowns. So I was correct in my biggest bust of last year, but not for the reason I thought. And now we are coming back into a season where I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have improved massively over the offseason. They have bolstered the O-line. Najee Harris is coming into the season healthy. They've got more established rapport between Kenny Pickett and these wide receivers. Listen, I'm betting on him to get back into the end zone this upcoming season. He's easily the best receiving option on the team. And listen, I don't know if you guys watched Kenny Pickett last year. He was not terrible. He had flashes. But he threw touchdowns at a historically low rate last season. He had a 1.4 touchdown percentage rate last season. If you guys don't know what that means, he attempted however many passes, and he threw a touchdown on 1.4% of them. That is historically low, you guys. He was not doing his best as a thrower in the NFL, but I think another offseason with Mike Tomlin, get the offense rolling back all together. Listen, Deontay Johnson's being drafted as wide receiver 34 right now, which to me, in my opinion, is honestly his floor. That is for me, worst case scenario where he finishes is in the wide receiver 30 range. I'm super excited to draft Deontay Johnson. I think he ends up returning super handsomely on that wide receiver 34 ADP. I've got him inside my top 20 wide receivers this season. He's my wide receiver 19 this year. And for that reason, he is my best value of the 2023 season.
I imagine most people are going to think about George Pickens more than Deontay Johnson. And that's what's so great about that stat with Johnson is that it was just the lack of touchdowns, and that makes a difference. I mean, that was why I never bought into DJ Moore as a fantasy wide receiver, because he never got more than 4 touchdowns in a season. Yeah. To have 0 touchdowns would be the 6th most targeted wide receiver in the National Football League. We know the volume is there. And just as you said, I mean, I've already talked about how excited I am for Najee's return. The Steelers offense looks good. I think Kenny Pickett is a really, really great. Didn't you talk about Kenny Pickett not too long ago?
Yeah, I don't remember what episode it was. I think it was busts that we were buying in on. And I said Kenny Pickett as my quarterback because he was like wide receiver 28 or 23 or quarterback, wide receiver, my goodness. Quarterback 28 last year or something along those lines. And I just thought he's going to get better. Like this guy could be a really solid, like mid-tier quarterback 2 for a team or something like that in fantasy. So yeah, I'm backing on Kenny Pickett. I think the offense gets better.
Yeah, I mean, just to close out with you on the best of values, I mean, Deontay Johnson is not a bad wide receiver. He didn't have a down year as far as his value. It was literally just lack of touchdowns. I think that's what's so important to look at the numbers too. And Or just listen to Fourth and Troll and let us tell you all the numbers and stats.
There you go,
too.
yeah.
But, I mean, that's the reason that Johnson's going to be great value. And we know, I mean, just go back the year before last and why he was a top 10 wide receiver because of the volume plus touchdowns.
Plus
just
getting in the end zone.
Just put them together, and that's how you're going to have a top 20 wide receiver. Yes. And wide receiver 38? Is that where he is right now?
Wide receiver 34.
34. I mean, still, that is, I don't know exactly where that is in the draft, but that's got to be like 8th or 9th round or something.
It's 8th round.
What a fantastic opportunity.
8th round to get the 6th most targeted wide receiver in the NFL last year. I want to touch on something real quick. You mentioned George Pickens, how a lot of people are probably thinking more about him. He had flashes, big plays last year, stuff like that. Do you have a guess? So Diontae Johnson is being drafted as wide receiver 34. Do you have a guess on where George Pickens is being drafted?
I'm going to say that it's between wide receiver 30 and 25. I'll just say 28.
Oh, you think George Pickens is being drafted before him?
I do think so. Am I incorrect?
So it's George Pickens is being drafted after him, but only 2 wide receiver spots after him. People are looking at George Pickens as thinking, well, he's going to have this big breakout. And it's like, we saw him have a couple good plays, but like, Diontae Johnson got like 140 plus targets last year. Like, they're like, both of these guys in this range, you can get both these guys in the 8th round. And for some reason, and people are probably you're right. People are probably going to draft George Pickens before Diontae Johnson. They think maybe Diontae Johnson has lost a step or something. No, he just didn't get in the end zone. He literally had catches where he would catch it and go, and he would be taken down at the 3-yard line. And it was like, you thought he was going to get in. It was like 2 years ago when we all watched Jacoby Myers on the Patriots, and we were like, is he going to finally score a touchdown? Like, what's going to happen? Diontae Johnson, best value in fantasy this year. It's wide receiver 2 in my books, and he's being drafted in the freaking 8th round. Like, it is. I love it. I'm so excited for Diontae Johnson here. That's going to do it for values. Wes, let's talk about the more fun things to talk about, because we're going to let you guys know which players are just going to absolutely suck it up this year and just be absolutely terrible and not be worth the draft pick. Wes, biggest bust for 2023 in your eyes? Tell us who it is.
Deebo Samuel. Now,
yes,
let's go ahead and break all this down here, ladies and gentlemen. We know the name Deebo Samuel because of his 2021 campaign, all right? Let me just remind you of what happened that season. 77 catches, 1,400 yards, 1,405 to be exact, and 6 receiving touchdowns. Solid season. I think most wide receivers would take that as their season stat line, and in fantasy, we would want that too, right? No. Because that would have been 217 points in PPR, which would have made him wide receiver 25 if you take away all his rushing stats. Yeah, I know you know where I'm going with this, and this is the reason. This dude rushed for 365 yards, look at me, and 8 touchdowns. Dude, that's as many as Nick Chubb had that season. That's more rushing touchdowns than 4 of the top 10 running backs to finish that season. So, to recap, without the rushing upside, Deebo Samuel is barely a top 25 wide receiver from his best season. He's being drafted in the 4th round. And some people think he's falling off because of the injury, and they're trying to convince themselves like, oh, this is going to be a steal. People think he's going to be back. He's not going to do well because of his injury, but actually, no, he's going to be great. No. In fact, that's too high, and he's going to be a bust. He's falling that low because Christian McCaffrey's on that team. Do you remember him? I sure do. He's incredible. That's where the rushing upside is going. Like fun, Deebo Samuel's going to have 8 rushing touchdowns with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. Are you kidding me? Not to mention our founding father of the National Tight End Day, George Kittle, is on that team, who had 11 receiving touchdowns because Brock Purdy has the biggest man crush on him since Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Do you know how many times Deebo Samuel had more than 80 receiving yards last season? I'm holding up the finger. It's one time ever. But Wes, that's you. But Wes, that was last year. What about in 2021? You're cherry picking. The dude had as many games over 100 yards as he did under 60 in 2021. He had 3 games in that breakout season under 30 yards receiving. You didn't realize because he was running around and he was averaging 21 total points a game because he was rushing for 8 touchdowns. Not to mention, again, Brandon Ayuk had 78 catches last year, 1,015 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Noah shared a fantastic stat. He's one of the very few receivers to have that kind of stat line all season. That was good enough for wide receiver 15. And Ayuk is only going to get better, and he's only had more touchdowns and more yards every single season. You see what I'm saying? Okay? George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk are going to take away targets from Deebo Samuel, who needs his rushing upside to have a chance at being a top 20, which is almost completely out of the question with Christian McCaffrey as a running back. Mark my words, Deebo Samuel is going to be wide receiver 21 or worse this season. Forget about it.
It's really good to hear somebody else bang the drum on this. I'm so excited. It made me so happy. Listen, there's not much to say. You wrapped it up perfectly. We've talked about it before as well, but it is, guys. If he's not rushing the ball, 8 times or for 8 touchdowns, it is not going to happen. And I don't understand why Deebo is being drafted in the 4th round. I've said it before, I'd rather take Brandon Ayuk in the 4th round than take Deebo Samuel in the 4th round. Like if I'm taking one of the 49ers wide receivers, it's Brandon Ayuk. And I would, if I had a pick in the 4th round, Ayuk. And so I fully agree and support you, Wes. I biggest bust easily by a mile, and maybe
Yes.
just ahead of this guy that I'm about to talk about.
That's a great segue, and I just want to also share that, remember last offseason he was so upset about being a wide back, as he was called, as hybrid player, that he doesn't want to rush the ball anymore? Okay, then you're not going to be top 20. So there you go. You get your wish. You got your paycheck. Happy for you and your family, but you're not going to be top 20 in fantasy as a wide receiver without all these rushing stats. Ayuk is a 4th round talent for sure. I take McCaffrey. I take Ayuk. I take George Kittle before I take Deebo Samuel. Biggest bust of the season, in my opinion. Pass the torch to you. Close out our show, Noah. Who is the biggest bust that you have found for us to avoid?
I'm excited to talk about it because it is Jonathan Taylor, running back for the Indianapolis Colts, currently being drafted as the RB5 ahead of guys like Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, Breece Hall, and Ramondre Stevenson. And listen, here's the thing. And I got numbers for you to back this up. Just hear me out. With Anthony Richardson and a new head coach at the helm of this team, I'm not confident in taking Jonathan Taylor this year, especially at his ADP. You have to take him at the 1-2 turn if you want to have Jonathan Taylor on your team. If you like Jonathan Taylor and you followed, fantasy over the last couple of years and you think last year was just a down year, you may be saying, I can get Jonathan Taylor at the 1-2 turn. He's a for sure top 10 running back. Like he's going to be fantastic. Like he has a chance to be RB1, honestly. Like he could be that guy. Well, let's talk about it because I grabbed some data from the past 5 seasons. And of a possible 18 running backs in this pool of quarterbacks who finished with over 500 rushing yards, the running backs of quarterbacks who rushed for over 500 yards, of 18 guys over the last 5 years, one of them has finished as a top 10 running back. Here are the fantasy finishes over the last 5 seasons of teams with quarterbacks who rushed for over 500 yards. Last year, David Montgomery, RB24. Devin Singletary, RB23. Miles Sanders, RB15. Saquon Barkley is the one, RB5. And get this, Kenyon Drake, because he was somehow the top running back for Baltimore this last year, RB45. Let's go to 2021. The amount of obscure names on this list of running backs for Baltimore is absurd here. Devontae Freeman last year, RB31 for Baltimore. Miles Sanders, RB44. Devin Singletary, RB20. Let's go to 2020. J.K. Dobbins, RB23. Kenyon Drake on the list again here for the Arizona Cardinals this time, RB16. Damian Harris, running back in New England, RB54. That was the season with Cam Newton. And Chris Carson in 2020, RB19. Russell Wilson had over 500 that season. In 2019, Mark Ingram on Baltimore, RB11 that year. Pretty great season. It was fun to look up these stats because Mark Ingram, RB11 in 2019 was a wild thing to see.
That's
RB11,
awesome.
Mark Ingram for Baltimore that year. Kenyon Drake again for the Arizona Cardinals, RB17. I know, it is so strange. Devin Singletary, RB35. Let's go to 2018. LaShawn McCoy, RB39 for the Buffalo Bills. Gus Edwards, RB56 for Baltimore. And Lamar Miller, RB23 in Houston, with Deshaun Watson rushing for over 500 yards that year. Listen, I've already made things clear that I'm not drafting a running back early this year. I'm out on that. But history shows us, over the last 5 seasons, running backs with quarterbacks who rush for over 500 yards in a season finish on average as the RB28. I'm so confident that Jonathan Taylor is going to be the biggest bust of the 2023 fantasy season that I'm going to mark my words. Jonathan Taylor will not be a top 20 running back this year. Book it.
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought you were just going to say 10. You said top 20. Whoa.
Nope, outside the top 20. Outside the top 20. And listen, it's just, we look back at this. There's one outlier. It's Saquon Barkley. Last year, RB5. Listen, there's a chance. Yes, Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor, in my eyes, are on the same level skill-wise as runners. There's a chance I get proven wrong here. There's a chance Jonathan Taylor, drafted as the RB5, finishes inside the top 5. There's a chance, for sure. I'm out on it, though, and I'm going to mark my words and say it. He is outside the top 20 this year. Anthony Richardson is a 500-yard rushing benchmark, easily attainable for Anthony Richardson this year. Yes, especially with a new head coach that was just the offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts, who rushed for how many touchdowns on the goal line? Oh, that's right, like 11? Yeah, cool. So is Jonathan Taylor getting the work on the goal line? No. So even if you want to say, sure, maybe he doesn't get a lot of yards, maybe he doesn't have a lot of rushing attempts because Anthony Richardson's running the ball, he'll still get the touchdowns, though. Will he? I don't think so. I'm not convinced. I am confident in saying Jonathan Taylor is going to be the biggest bust of the 2023 fantasy football season, and I am staying very clear of him in all leagues this year.
Wow. When you let me know, as Noah and I have done, just to share to make sure we didn't want to do a 4th and Joel double down on this episode, so we exchanged players, no context, just gave the names. And I got the redemption story of Deontay Johnson. Was like, look at that, he's back. And I didn't even register that Jonathan Taylor was their name. I was like, oh, I know that name. Yes, he plays for the Colts. And then I just it was like, great, those weren't my players. And then right as we were starting, I was like, a bust? What do you? And then it just clicked, Anthony Richardson. Oh, but of course. And then it clicked again, new head coach. Shane Steichen came from Philadelphia and what he just did with Jalen Hurts. And then you've listed where Miles Sanders has finished all of these seasons. And people don't like Miles Sanders because of
people don't like Miles Sanders at all. And that's the funny part and thing to key in on here too is that you hear that Miles Sanders last year was RB15. And that was because he had double-digit touchdowns last year. And that's why I key in on and say, it's not gonna happen.
He'll be good.
Yeah, like it is not, the touchdowns are not going to be what keeps Jonathan Taylor as a fantasy relevant running back. Like, he is going to finish outside the top 20 this year, and I'm so confident in it.
Wow. I love numbers and averages like this, and just in history as well. So you've sucked me into this stat, and I feel convinced. I never really had my eye on Jonathan Taylor to begin with, but now I have a reason, and I'm very excited. I mean, I was gonna go wide receiver anyway, but like now this is even like if JT falls to me like the middle of the second round, now I don't have that temptation anymore. Dude,
you don't have to go, should I get... No, you shouldn't.
What an episode. This was hot takes, but the right takes.
I love it.
Never been wrong, baby. Never been wrong.
Never been wrong. I love Values and Bust episode. It's one of my favorites to ever do. And I'd say that only having done it now twice completely for Fourth and Troll Fantasy.
Facts.
Long history here, guys. One of the best episodes ever, though. Listen, that is it for the episode. Let us know if you agree with us in the comments below. Make sure you follow us on social media. Hit us up on there as well. Will Jonathan Taylor and Deebo Samuel be busts, or Joshua Kelly and Deontay Johnson some of the best values? We think so. What do you think? Got to let us know here. Drop a comment. Let us know. Hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell. Make sure you help Teddy the Troll put a smile on his face by doing those things for us. Be sure to check us out. We will see you guys next Tuesday. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been Fourth and Troll Fantasy.